Welcome to today's videocast, stroke podcast. I'm your host Momo, and today I'll be elaborating on this week's Medium article, and the title is Your USP, It's What Makes You, You. Right, before we kick things off, a quick reminder that this videocast podcast format isn't a forever thing. Once I've got better equipment and a suitable place to record in, you'll see my face, so whether you think that's a good thing or not remains in the balance. What's the old saying? A face for radio. Anyway, so, and as per usual, all of my content is going out via the newsletter, so the Medium article, this video cast, and I'll also include a useful tip per week. So if I see anything online that someone has posted about and I think that would be useful for everyone to know, that's where I'll include that in the newsletter. There's usually some very cool stuff lands on Twitter with regards to software or programs. So, and yeah, you'll find all of my Medium articles and YouTube stuff. I'll host it on the Momo Review website. There's going to be a Momo copywriting website soon. Just currently working through that, and as always, any link I discuss is going to be in the description below. So, the Medium article is the second in a short series that discusses, if you want, you could call it the category creating a client-oriented service. So, without further ado, let's dive into the article. So, if you can click on the article if you want and read that before this, or we could do it at the same time. I'll try not to go over the stuff verbatim because it's pointless with the article there. You can read that in your own time. I'll just be adding some notes to that. So, USP, in a nutshell, it's what sets you apart from your peers and the competition. And it sounds perfectly easy enough to get your head around that. Or as I've written here, easy enough to fathom on paper, but it's far trickier when it comes the time to actually create the USP. It's not as straightforward as it would seem. In fact, it's probably one of the most difficult things to get right. So, a long story short, you'll save yourself a lot of pain if you remember and focus on you. Again, it sounds a bit obvious, but most people try and highlight an idealized version of themselves, or worse, a generic version of their niche. Now, a quick note, I'm not saying that you shouldn't write a aspirational USP, but your USP's function is really to set apart what you are bringing to the table experience-wise. So an example would be, you wouldn't want to say I am a six-figure ghostwriter if that's a load of shit. You could say I am a ghostwriter and I aspire to do this, that, and the other. You can describe what you're doing on something like Twitter, but I would not advise making things up. You might aspire to make 5,000 or 6,000 a year or a month, depending on how ambitious you are. But lying about that doesn't chime well. So what you could do is you could say I am a copywriter and I have experience bringing this much money per month. Now venturing into Twitter ghostwriting. That would be perfectly fine because you are using your past experience and linking it to your current niche. No problem there. So, as I said, as we discussed in our last article and videocast, you're going to find the ingredients for your USP in your past. So in the article we're discussing this week, I give two larger situations where you'll use USP. The first point of view is a freelance writer, and the other point of view is someone building a social media following. And for the sake of this video cast, we're just going to stick with copywriter. It's something I know back to front, so it's going to be easier for me to discuss examples. But for your own purposes, just take out copywriter and swap it with whatever skill that you currently have. Okay, so you'll find a USP for a copywriter on their portfolios, and most likely a website, because most people's portfolios are web-based these days, although some people still do physical copies of their portfolio, or maybe they've got a Google Slides version of portfolio. I've created those in the past. I've also done them on Designer. But either way, normally for ease of sharing and reference, a copywriter's portfolio will contain their USP, and it could be on their homepage or their about page, or a little bit of both, which is what I've done with my current copywriting. I was going to say CV there, portfolio. My brain had stopped working for a second. So if we use Twitter as an example for a portfolio, your unique selling point is going to be in the bio, or at least that's where it should be. But that's a different story for a different time. And just to note, if you are on Twitter and you are trying to build your audience and you're fairly new to it, so you might be doing the follow unfollow sort of technique to get your numbers up initially. These days, for some reason, I don't actually get many notifications of when people follow my account, which is a bit odd because I would say it's a big account, but either way, if I am looking through recent followers, and the first thing I'll look for is, does the person have anything in the bio at all? And if there's nothing in the bio, there's no way I'm going to follow the person back, because we have no idea what the account's about. Whereas if someone's written a very, very detailed bio and I like it and it chimes with what I'm interested in, I will follow them back. Just a quick note, in case anybody was wondering what the point of a bio is, it's actually the first thing you see if you hover over someone's name. You won't be able to see the profile picture properly, you will not see the banner, you won't see the content, you will see the bio. Or, as I mentioned, lack thereof. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the article verbatim as I mentioned. You can do that in your own time, but I do want to note that your USP, it's going to undergo various rewrites, edits, iterations. So even a not so great USP, it's far better than nothing at all. So stop overthinking the initial stage and get one drafted and published. You can only improve on something that exists. Don't feed the perfectionism excuse machine. So if you're sitting there thinking, my USP's not great, I just need to fiddle with this, I just need to fiddle with that, I need to fiddle with my profile, with my banner, forget about all of that. Just get something on there and then improve upon it. Ask people for feedback. That's a big one, especially if you're in contact with someone who has a bigger account, who is pulling in good numbers. You really do need to ask them, look, what do you think of my profile? Is it monetized? Am I likely to attract new followers? And they'll drag you, hopefully. If they're any good, they will pull your everything apart and you'll be able to have some decent notes to make improvements from. Okay, so now we've got two medium articles to work with. If you combine them both, you'll be well on your way to creating a client offer. So the last time I talked about the sort of the need to look back at your previous experiences when you're thinking about putting together a new offer. And within that, I mentioned the USP, which is why today we are discussing this aspect of it. So now that we understand how to look back at our previous CV or resume, to extract the points that we'll be highlighting as what sets us apart, the USP it's basically the snippet version of that. It is a tagline which says this is who we are, our previous experience, and it's an extremely short 1 or 2 sentence summation of that, so that people understand instantly this is what this person's about, this is what sets them apart, they are the right person for me, or otherwise they're not. So we now have 2 articles we can work from, and we will be doing one final one. So I'm going to do a quick 3-article series. Our next one is going to cover backcasting, and it's something I will discuss quite often. This is a technique which I read from Ozan Varol, who I'm a big fan of, and I'm looking forward to his new book when it comes out later this year. And basically, Ozan discusses how you can backcast rather than forecast. Now, there might be a little bit of a contradiction I'm aware that I'm falling into, because obviously I have discussed looking backwards to make a client offer. I'm now venturing into the future, but it will all link up. And the reason why is we'll be looking at it from the perspective of we are now 1 or 2 years into the future, we have a successful client offer, and I mean, you could manifest it as much as you want with regards to how much money you're making, etc. But what we actually need to do is we need to go into the future to say this is a successful offer, and we need to then work backwards to the present day and create a bridge or a path or whatever analogy works better for you. And we need to look at the stepping stones to get to that imagined future where we have a successful client offer today, and say, look, these are the steps that lead up to that. So we need to work out how to get these logical steps in place. We can also create a timeline, which is always good for getting deadlines in place. So what that might be is you might say, it's December 2023. It's been a successful year. I have a client offer. I have 1 or 2 clients on retainer for X amount. And this is the service I offer, and this is how I got here. So then you would look at, well, what did you have to get there? A functioning portfolio website would be a good example. A social media account which discusses content which creates inbound leads, which is important, because the way you use your social media account, if you are looking for clients, is slightly different than if you're building a audience only or promoting an affiliate product. We can talk about that in a different article, and I'll let you make a point of. I might make a quick note here. So we can talk about that at another time. So, but basically we'll be looking at what kind of things are going to lead us logically to the point we need to get at, which is however many clients you want on this retainer at this sort of service. So we'll be looking into the mechanics of how it all works. So it's not quite that concept of manifesting a successful future self. It's more about going into that space, looking at the logical steps of how you would get there. So you might say, in the first month or 2, have a functioning website, and months 4 till 6, reshaping Outbound, how are you improving on your sort of cold emailing? That might include lead generation, using a bit more sophisticated stuff for that, introducing a CRM so you can really keep on top and make sure that you're contacting people 3 or 4 times, getting back in touch with them, setting reminders to get in touch with people who might be interested but weren't ready to take the service then. You might spend sort of between months 7 and 9. You might look into improving your sales techniques. You might be tempted to get a course, do some coaching on how to improve that side of things. You might even outsource and get a VA or someone who specifically can get you more leads. That might be something you look at. So what we're really going to look in more detail is how we go forwards to that successful point and work backwards. So that's going to be the next episode. And we'll have, from there, we should have the foundations of how you can put together a client offer. And I'll try and think of some sort of practical challenge, because it's always good to try and put this into, to get a challenge to put the wheels in motion, I suppose, is the good old cliche I shall wedge into this. So that is it for today. I'm going to leave this here before I ramble on and spin into a bit of a rabbit hole. So, as always, please subscribe for more content. You can do the notification bell. My screen just went a bit nuts there. So everything I've discussed today, links-wise, it's all in the description. So there's a link to my newsletter, there's a link to the Medium article, and I'll also shove a link in for last week's Medium article and YouTube video. I'll also stick my Twitter bio there as well, and that's it. Thank you for joining me. I've been your host, Momo. I wish you all for the best for the week ahead, and if there's anything I've covered in this videocast or article that you'd like to discuss further, feel free to drop me a direct message or an email. I'll gladly discuss it in more detail. Okay, thanks again and take care. Momo over and out.